Of course, we've been talking about Testament for the better part of 3 years now, which is insane, but we just got the trailer last week for Testament Season 1, the official trailer. I wanted to jump into it here and break it down piece by piece because there's some really interesting bits here, and I think it'll help you to actually understand the series a little bit better. So let's jump in. Here we go.
Did you steal his body from the tomb?
Now, first things first, right off the bat, did you steal his body from the tomb? This here is Caiaphas speaking. Caiaphas, of course, being the high priest of the time of Jesus. In this show, he's called the high minister, so it's a little bit different. But we're actually seeing here Jesus's tomb. There's a Roman soldier who is guarding the tomb here as we're kind of looking into it, which is really, really cool.
Why do you keep asking about the body?
Now that there was John. Why do you keep on asking about the body? And of course, John is one of the apostles. And we see this kind of referenced here, the report of the guard. So there's not a point in the Bible when it's like, when John is questioned about where the body goes or like if they've hid the body. But we do get this section here of the report of the guard. It says, while they were going, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. And when they had assembled, when the elders had taken counsel, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, tell people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. So this is obviously a precursor to Acts. It's in Matthew chapter 28. But the priests and the elders actually gave the Roman soldiers money. They bribed them to tell everybody, hey, the disciples came and stole him in our sleep. And so that's why Jesus is gone, not because he was raised. So they literally are paying Roman soldiers to go and lie, which is crazy. Or maybe temple guard, I'm not sure here. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble, which is crazy. The Roman soldiers basically that came and talked to the chief priest and everything that happened, the chief priests pay them off and tell them, hey, go tell everybody that the body is gone, that the disciples came and stole it by night. It's really, really cool. But we get that connection here of Caiaphas asking that question, not because he thinks they actually stole the body, most likely, but because he's actually helped to pay off the Roman guards and he's trying to spread this rumor here.
Did you take it?
Here we get the burial stone of Jesus, which is very cool. And we get a special character coming into it. This is Saul of Tarsus. So Saul's checking out the tomb there. Now, this shot I really, really love. Now, like I said, this is a modern day alternate universe, okay? Modern day alternate universe. So what are we looking at here? We see obviously a train, but the train is on top of what looks to be similar to the Roman aqueducts during the day, which is very, very cool. The water system that they would have used during the time of Jesus. There's aqueducts from the first century that still exist in Israel today that you can go and check out and kind of see. And this is basically a very close replica to those that this train is traveling on. Now, a couple of different things that I'll kind of zoom in and show you as we're looking at this here. Number one, we see this, which I believe to be some sort of mile marker. This would have been very common during the time of Jesus on this public road here. And you're seeing a couple of different roads that kind of go together. You see this one that kind of follows along off the other side over here. Then you have the main road here that has kind of a mile marker or a city marker that shows you what city you're headed towards. Of course, you see the aqueducts over here, the aqueduct train rail there. Then over here, you see several different crosses all along this public roadway. Why would those crosses be there? It's not random, right? And it's not an accident that these are in the trailer. The crosses are there because crucifixions would have happened on public roadways, which is super, super cool to see. And we're seeing this roadway in particular run straight towards this city over here, okay? So we have a city that's set up over there. These public roadways are covered in crosses pretty much everywhere. And of course, this would have been common during the time of Jesus. And this is not just a remembrance of Jesus thing. This is a public execution thing, which is pretty crazy. Now, I love that we're kind of seeing all these little mini details in here, because that would mean that this public road, of course, is a Roman road, which is in Israel somewhere. So I love that connecting point, because they're taking these cultural Christian things, and they're bringing them into a more modern day look at what is actually going on within these setups here, which is really, really cool. Now, this, of course, does not look like Roman architecture very much at all. In fact, it looks pretty European, if I were to say myself. But of course, we do see that this is going to be filmed in Europe. And so they can't really get away with a lot of that past that. But again, it's an alternate universe. So we're going to have to see how it looks overall. The majority of this is going to look very European, right? Which is just the way that it's going to be for this. Sorry, I'm trying to fix something real fast. But we get that beautiful building here. One of the things that I think is going to be interesting between this and The Chosen is that a lot of the locations that they're using here are real, like, old locations. So it's as if The Chosen were able to go and like film in some of the ancient locations in Israel and different places like that. And having those places not be like a set that's built is a way different feel for a video, for a movie, for a show. And so here I think we're going to see that, and we're going to recognize that pretty quickly within the show, that the sets are going to feel a lot different, maybe more tangible in some ways. Here we see the apostles as they come down the stairs here towards all of these people that are gathering together. Maybe this is Pentecost. Who knows?
Claim he is risen.
So they claim he is risen. Here we see Stephen for the first shot here. I love this little shot of Stephen. He just looks like super distraught, which I love. I love that the little chin quiver that he does here. It's pretty intense, actually.
Jesus is alive.
Now here he's talking to a character named Esther. We don't really know who Esther is, but he seems like he's related to Esther in some way. Maybe his aunt, maybe his mom. I'm not sure. I haven't watched the show yet. But we do know her name is Esther from the BTS.
He's dead.
So she's not really on his side. Of course, Stephen is the first martyr. He's one of the first people to die within, the Christian faith. And so Esther is kind of fighting back on that. Like, no, he's dead.
I saw him.
This is a character who I don't think we have a identity for him yet. From the behind the scenes, we might, but it's not coming to me at the moment.
Wasn't he
There's Mary Magdalene.
killed?
Crucified.
Let me explain.
So wasn't he killed? Crucified. Let me explain. And we have Peter here as he's leading up. In this shot here in particular, we've got Peter, of course. Then we've got John and James, who in real life are actually really brothers. John Amole, who is... it's an interesting kind of setup that they have here because Kenneth Amole is... one of the writers of the show as well. So this is like a Ryan or a Tyler being within The Chosen, okay? Paul is Kenneth's brother-in-law, okay? So he is related to Paul through marriage. His sister is another writer of the show who is married to Paul. So the three of them are family, but they're also writers of the show. And then Kenneth brought in his brother to play Big James, as we know him in The Chosen, but James, the Greater. So he is going to be the first apostle that dies, which is going to be really interesting as well. But they've all done an amazing job that I've seen so far. This, of course, is Mary Magdalene over here. I believe this is Andrew. So Peter, Andrew, James, John, Mary Magdalene, and I don't think we have an identity for this one yet. Of course, people have asked me all the time, this is going to be on Angel exclusively as far as I know, and so we'll see that. We'll see what happens when it comes to that, right? Of course, we've talked about some of the issues with Angel on our channel pretty openly. Yes, I am going to watch this show. I've been waiting for 3 years to watch this show. I will let you know if it's worth it or not, okay? See, we have Stephen and Esther here.
Sound.
Now, they said something like that sound. They're looking out. Maybe it's a sound that reminds them of Jesus in particular. They're going to see him return, something like that. I don't really think that we're going to see Jesus in this show, would be my guess, but we'll see.
We were all there at his trial. We all shouted, "Crucify him to the Imperium!"
Stevie,
So the Imperium is Rome here.
you're too smart for this.
I just know it's true.
Esther says, Stephen, you're too smart for this. Stephen says, I just know it's true.
It's something old and yet something new.
Something old and yet something new. I believe this is Stephen here being baptized by James. So we see him coming up there as he's being baptized. And again, this is in a pool. This is in a public place. Where would people have been baptized? Most likely, a lot of them were baptized in mikveh, actually. But then any public place would do for baptism as well. A lake or the seaside or whatever else.
Blasphemy.
So we see the group of Pharisees and Sadducees here. Caiaphas to the left, right here, looking over this group of people praying for each other. I don't know if this is meant to be Pentecost or if this is meant to be something else here, but we're gonna have to see.
Insurgency.
There's the group there of kind of Pharisees and Sadducees. Really importantly, we know that this is Caiaphas, the high minister, and then this is Gamaliel, who of course is going to train Saul of Tarsus. And here, I love this little moment right here. This little look. Immediately when I saw this shape, I recognized it because I've done a lot of studying of the Jerusalem area. This is a map of Jerusalem. You can see right here, this is the main city here. Over here is the city of David in this little section right here. And then that leads up to the Temple Mount, which is right here. So this is the second Temple Mount right here that Herod would have built. And so you can see all of that there. You can even see the little streams that kind of come through that match with the geography of the area. So to the east of this would be the Mount of Olives over here. And then we have the Temple Mount and then the city proper where everything kind of happens. So they're kind of planning out what they want to do. I love this little detail here of the actual city of Jerusalem map being used. And it even feels like it's on like a more ancient feeling, like paper, even though it's a modern feeling show. I don't know. We're going to have to see kind of what goes on here.
Inciting revolution.
So we see a meeting here that they're all having. Now here is the temple guard. We've talked about them quite a bit, but this is the leader of the temple guard. And so we're going to see him kind of do some different things here as well. Caiaphas here looking forward.
Must do something.
We must do something. And here is Saul of Tarsus.
You believe them.
This has nothing to do.
Here again, the rest of the group. I believe this one is Matthew. I believe that's Matthew there. And then I think this woman is probably Susanna. We're going to see a little bit more of her in the later parts of this trailer. I believe this is going to be Susanna. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's going to be Susanna.
With our faith.
Here is what is his name? I just forgot his name. The high priest that takes over after Caiaphas. This is going to be him right here. So let me back up. We'll watch that.
You believe them.
This has nothing to do with our faith.
It has everything to do with it.
So this really struck me because I'm like thinking through The Chosen. I don't think we have ever gotten a reaction like this in The Chosen. Maybe the closest we've gotten is Coffney, but it doesn't feel as visceral as this. Yeah, I just love this part here.
This has nothing to do with our faith.
It has everything to do with it.
Yeah, so Saul is going ham there, kind of looking through and saying it has everything to do with it. Ananias, thank you so much.
Nothing to do with our faith.
Ananias, right here. Sorry.
It has everything to do with it.
So let me go slowly here through this section as it kind of runs through beat by beat. So we got the temple guard here getting ready, gearing up for something. We have Big James, or James as we know him, James the Greater, being pushed into the wall by, it looks like temple guard as well, because they have these earpieces here. Looks like temple guard as they have those earpieces. Then we see a sign right here that if we go forward a little bit, we can kind of read it a little bit better. It says, the Imperium thanks you, I think is what it says there. And so it says the Imperium thank, and I think the rest of that is thanks you for coming or being part of it or whatever. So we see the Imperium thanks you. That's going to be the Romans there. Next, we see Matthew being pushed into the ground with his glasses on. We see Saul just tearing it up, running through the hallways right here. And then we see as John and Peter are brought in front of the ministry here. And then we see this woman who I believe is Susanna, but I'm not sure yet. I think that's Susanna as she's running through the crowd and running away. Then we get these two, and I'll let you let them introduce themselves, which is going to be a really interesting piece. And then we'll come back to this screenshot right here.
Anything to do with it.
I'm Ananias. This is my wife, Sapphira.
So Ananias and Sapphira, of course, a very interesting couple there.
I'm
So we
Ananias.
see this shot right here. These cases are filled with money. Okay, so Ananias and Sapphira, if you don't know the story of Ananias and Sapphira, we will go all over it during season 1 of Testament for sure. But Ananias and Sapphira are part of the early church, and they are actually asked, along with everybody else, to give away all of their money, to give away all their possessions, sell everything, and give all of their money to the church so that everybody can take care of each other. This obviously becomes a pretty big issue because they decide that they're going to sell most of everything, but they're going to keep some behind for themselves so that they can take care of themselves. Okay. That doesn't bode so well for them because they get struck down, like straight up dead. And that does not work out well. So the two of them do not make the correct decision. They end up lying to Peter and to the church leaders, basically. And because of that, God strikes them down, which is pretty crazy. A pretty intense beginning of the church, to be honest. But the money that you can see here is not bills. It looks like some sort of coinage, which makes a lot more sense than bills during this time, right? And so it's very cool that we get to see that here as well. You can kind of see all the coins or whatever they are, little metal pieces kind of all stacked up together. You can also see that they're pretty well off. There's a lot of money going on here with their clothing and the necklace and the house and the mantle behind them. There's a lot of money going on there, and they're looking to keep that money, basically.
This is my wife, Sapphira.
Now there we've got Peter as he's looking towards someone. Not sure who that is there. Oh, is that Ananias? Yeah. Looks like Ananias. So this is probably where Ananias is going to die because Peter is looking at him and he's probably confronting him about the money that he didn't hand over. And so that's going to be pretty intense there.
I'm never gonna deny him again.
So Peter there says, I'm never going to deny him again, alluding towards his 3 denials of Jesus, which is going to be, you know, a big part of his story, a big piece of trauma for him moving forward in the church as a leader. Here again is the leader of the temple guard.
We're on
Then here we've got Mary Magdalene.
2 different sides of a war that's brewing.
So we see Mary Magdalene has some sort of connection with the leader of the temple guard.
I'm never gonna deny him again. We're on 2 different sides of a war that's brewing.
So we're on 2 different sides of a war that's brewing. We see the temple guard leader as well as Mary Magdalene here. I wonder if they're like a thing. That would be really interesting, actually, if they were like a thing. Because he says we're on 2 different sides of a war that's brewing. So that must mean that they have some sort of relationship outside of that war, so that makes sense that they would be a thing. Yeah, interesting. And then here we've got some girl who I think is on some sort of substance. And we saw a little bit of an Easter egg to this because we have an invoice that was given to us through a QR code and a video early on in the Testament, like BTS stuff. And so we actually got an invoice that shows Mary Magdalene's name on it. And it has to do with some sort of illicit like substance of some sort. So I think she's trying to save people outside of this club, essentially, that is drugging people. Here we see, I believe her name is Mara, who is one of the temple guard kind of main characters. And then there we see John as he kind of slams the table and
Pretty
gets up.
soon,
Caiaphas here.
I'm gonna have to start aiming at you.
And then Mary Magdalene. Again, in the background, we're hearing that temple guard guy talk. So we'll listen to that one more time.
And pretty soon, I'm gonna have to start aiming at you.
So, and pretty soon I'm going to have to start aiming at you. Again, this is that same scene, I think, here where she's talking to him in this moment. And then we see Gamaliel. One of the coolest things about this series is just the little tiny Easter eggs that are everywhere in this series. So, for example, in Saul of Tarsus's office, we actually see a diploma on the background that is from Gamaliel, basically graduating from Gamaliel's program. So that's really cool.
This minister.
And there's Stephen, Saul.
This is what happens next.
So there's John and this minister. This is what happens next. We see a bunch of different stuff there. I'll kind of back up a little bit. We see, I think this is, I can't really tell who this is running. I can't tell if it's this guy here or if it's Saul. It's kind of hard to say because it might be Saul running from the other scene that we saw as well. Could be this guy though. And then we see Peter and John and a lot of the apostles that are running through a gate here, running away. Looks like from a prison with the barbed wire there. So maybe it's Peter escaping the prison whenever the angel lets him out, question mark. That would be pretty cool to see. Is Peter wearing the same clothes we saw before, or are those prison clothes? Hard to say. Hard to say. Here we have someone, I'm not sure I know who this is, who it looks like he's being hit with something maybe, or I can't tell exactly what's happening here, but it looks like he may be getting hit with something. Then we've got Gamaliel in the middle of an argument, Andrew looking over towards something. Then we got Mary Magdalene and who we believe to be Susanna. I'm not 100% sure, kind of looking off. There, we've got a couple of different things. The Roman soldiers, or the Imperium here, have these specific spears that they have with them. They're pointing them at someone here. Then we get Saul as he's leading the temple guard towards probably Christians, would be my guess. He's not a very, very big fan of Christians, so my guess would be he's walking towards them. Then we get Peter as well as some of the other apostles as they're looking towards the end there, and then that's it. We're going to see that June 8th. So June 8th is the first episode here. Not sure how they're going to release it, if it's all at once or if it's one episode a week or what they're going to do there. I'm really looking forward to Testament. You have to understand, my personal preference is not always shows like The Chosen. My personal preference is normally like very much like UK drama, like Sherlock, Doctor Who, that sort of stuff has always been my preference since I was a kid. And so this sort of show is like right up my alley of what I love, and it has to do with the Bible. So with those two things intertwined, I think it's really going to be a fantastic show, at least for my bias. And so we'll see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts about Testament in the comments down below. And of course, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.